Whether you're leading for the first time, leading through change, or learning to lead all over again, this space is for you. No fluff, no gimmicks, just real talk from those who've led through challenges, adapted under pressure, and thrived in the face of change. Welcome to Command to Corporate, where leadership isn't just taught, it's lived. Let's get to work. All right, welcome back, everyone. Glad you could tune back in or see us on YouTube again. We're your hosts, LP and T. T, how are you doing?
Doing fabulous, brother. How you doing?
I'm doing well, man. I'm glad that the weather kind of turned around and got warm. Did break out my motorcycle yesterday for a bit, which was nice. The
Oh,
weather was good
nice.
for it. I
Hmm.
actually didn't realize that the registration or for motorcycles, they don't have to get inspected anymore in Texas. I didn't, for some
Really?
reason, yeah. So I went to get it inspected first, and they were like,
Hmm.
"Oh, because of the low emissions or whatever, they're like they don't do it anymore." I was like, "Dang." I'm sitting here months late, working on it, doing repairs. Like, all right, now I can finally go get it registered. And they're like, "Oh, you don't do it anymore." I said, "I could have been registered this thing,"
Sometimes
but
I just love Texas.
yeah, just like don't
He's like,
leave it.
don't worry about it. You're good,
Yeah, don't worry about it.
bro. Ah,
Yeah,
emissions.
so but it was a nice day though for it, so I was glad to get it out. Yeah, and
Your
that's about
your vehicle is actually, I mean, your vehicle, your motorcycle. What's the size of that engine?
it was 1800.
1800. The
Yeah.
size displacement size of like a small car.
I guess.
Like, oh, emissions, don't worry about it.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
I'm telling you. Yeah, I just kept it. With that bike over the years. For those that may have gotten like their first bike, and I think my first one might have been like way back when, might have been like a 250. So I'm looking like a giant on this small bike, riding it back and forth to work on the Fort Hood. Then I went from there, I think, to like maybe a 650, but didn't really ride that one. It needed repair. I didn't work on it. Got rid of that one. Then I jumped to 750. And that's when it's my first brand new bike. But on the
Hmm.
highway, I was like, I need more power. And somebody said, no, you should go small and then go big.
Sure,
Man, I
I
was
agree with that.
like, but you feel that itch soon after, especially when
Absolutely,
riding with other people. It's like, I need more power.
absolutely. Yeah,
How big can I go?
yeah. No, I hear
Yeah.
you. Yeah, I heard the same thing, and I kind of agree with it. I had a 600, and yeah, I think after a few months, I was ready to go up, and I was looking shopping around already.
Yeah. Yeah. And I have been still going strong on workouts, but I changed it up. So I found on TikTok, doom scrolling, coming across, looking at workouts in general, trying to find different routines. Saw some good things with like using kettlebells that I want to
Mm,
incorporate. And then I saw it's a hit workout, but easy enough to manage where you just do one rotation and that's it. So if you push maybe 30 minutes, but I think I see and feel the results of that far more than I have anything else. And you can change the routines. I took a few snapshots, but I've done it now for 2 weeks straight. And I think it's
yeah,
pretty good. I mean, you gonna huff and puff, but it's pretty legit. So I was like, okay, I think I'm gonna keep this going.
yeah. High intensity workouts, man. I don't mess with them. I tend to injure myself. So no.
Yeah. Yeah, I do stress though, because I know that it can happen. Because I remember you mentioned that to me. So
Mm.
I'm gonna keep it going. See what the new year
Good for you,
brings.
brother. Nice.
To keep it going. All right. Okay, man. For today's episode on C2C, we are talking about transitioning from peer to manager. Transitioning from peer to manager, and thinking about days back in the military. I mean, that can happen. With each promotion, you can see that happen. So we'll jump into it. Why
Hmm.
is leading former peers so difficult?
Yeah.
I
Agree
mean,
with you,
for
bro.
me, um, just I could see it being difficult because it's like now I have to be a boss, but
Hmm.
it could also not be. I guess it depends on how you transition into the role.
Hmm.
Because in the
Okay.
military, they just respect the rank. So you wear the rank.
True.
Now they're calling you sergeant or whatever. Whatever the branch is, they're gonna honor that. Um, so they may still kind of tend to joke around, but then there's still that separation. I think the military has a way of getting people to focus on their lane.
Yeah.
Um, and I guess it also depends on the person's maturity level to actually say, I'm going to be your boss and not like get the big head where it's like, now I'm the boss, do what I say.
Mm,
And you kind of come off with that authority. Um, and then some people might, being difficult, like, I don't really want to tell them what to do. I don't want to be their boss. Like we were just hanging out and,
yeah. That's the
so I
hard
think
part. You're right.
that's yeah, it's like, how do I separate that now that I went to school, I come back, you know, in the military, at least you go away. You know what I mean? You go away to
Yep.
school, you're gone. There's this gap coming back new. In the civilian sector, it's just overnight. It could be like you just get promoted. I was
Yeah.
just your peer, and now I'm going to start telling you what to do. And I think in those spaces, it could be more difficult because, maybe we were just bullshitting about this, and oh, you were just doing the same thing I was doing. Now I got to do it because you're my boss now.
Hmm.
Get weird.
So just really quick, I think you said a couple things that like resonate with me. One is, you know, you said you go away to school and come back, but I also think that here's the benefit of the military having you rotate every couple of years, right? It's
Yeah.
like
Oh,
a lot of
true.
times you move on to the next spot, especially when you get a promotion. Not always, obviously, but you're not there very long, especially after you get promoted. You're usually kind of moving on to the next location. The second thing that I liked what you said is that in the military, you know, they're now calling you by your title or rank, which is mentally does something to you, does something to a person, because now you're
Mm,
calling them sergeant, first sergeant, whatever,
yeah.
and that is you create a distance there with just calling that
True.
person a title, as opposed to in the civilian world, John is John. John that's his name today, that's his name tomorrow, even though now he's my boss. So those are really two critical things. I mean, I guess the army gets that right, I think, in my opinion, right?
Hmm.
Um, the other thing is what makes it difficult is, when you get promoted, you were with your boys, for whatever, a couple of years. So you know where all the bodies are buried, right?
Yes, that's true. Yeah,
That's the hard
that is
part.
very true.
And so it's like, oh, I know what you guys do. Don't fuck around.
So let me ask you, that's we're
Yeah.
gonna jump right into it since you brought that up. So how do you set new boundaries without alienating your friends?
Yeah. So I thought about that, and I think you definitely have to get everybody in a room, right? And say, hey, like, I get it. We're friends, but we're being watched. Like, I'm just being honest with you. Like, and I think it's true. If you've been in an organization, any organization long enough, you know people are watching you, right? And so people expect you, have the expectations that you will have your favorites, because
Mm,
you're used to be friends before. And so they're
yeah.
watching for that. And
Mm,
I think that's where you have to talk to everybody. Like, listen, I may have to overcorrect a little bit. I can't even like really be too nice to you. It doesn't mean that we're not friends. It's just that I know people are watching, so I have to be very critical of what you do. That said, do the right thing. So I don't need to talk to you about it.
yeah.
I think you have to be pretty much upfront and blunt and say, hey, at work, you're a great member of a team. Outside of work, you're my friend again, and let's just keep it separate. How would you do it?
Yeah, I would say so because from my experience, just letting them know, like at the end of the day, I have a job to do,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm going to keep it by the book as much as possible. So if there's a clear violation or whatever, you know what I have to do. Everyone reads the same, you know the
Yes.
information. So if you
Yes.
do it, you do it. Like understand this is business, it's not personal. And I think getting people to kind of mature up to understanding that and saying, okay, like for example, you were supposed to have on safety shoes in this area, you didn't. I caught you and you've been doing it. I'm like, well, by the book, you have to be written up.
Hmm.
And it's like, well, why are you going to do that to me? It's like, but look, everyone sees you. So if I don't do that,
Yeah,
then
for sure.
what kind of message does that send? So you are going to
Yeah.
get the hammer, unfortunately, and
Yes.
that's it. But understand that it is straight by the book. That's what happened.
But you're right. But there is some wiggle room as well in friendship, right? Like you see a friend acting up a little bit, and like before it gets too bad, like you have an opportunity
Yeah,
to go to your friend and say, "Hey, I see this. Other people see this. Get your shit together because
true.
don't put me in a position where I have to take action." You know. So I
Yeah,
guess that's a good part of it too.
yeah. And then even when you say when you have to take action, lead us to the next one. So how should you handle resentment from peers you now lead? And I think when you think about it, like I think again, the difference with the military, to
Hmm.
your point, everyone has a fair shot at going to get promoted. You see the requirements, especially in the lower ranks. When you think about just making it to sergeant, it's
Hmm.
by points, it's by education, it's by so. If you get nominated for promotion, everyone can. If you it's a board reviewing, you get selected. It's like I'm out of this. I'm just doing what I can do to get and be presentable. I'm making sure that I'm prepared. If you don't do that, that's not on me.
Hmm.
I'm doing what I have to do. But in the civilian sector, I could see where, let's say, a boss, you chatting and you just happen to be like a quote unquote favorite.
Mm.
So you can do no wrong, or maybe your work is not always the best, but hey, you're a favorite. I think that can then be difficult when you're like, oh, I'm gonna promote you because we're buddies, we're
Yeah.
pals, we're friends. Then you get promoted. Now they're really gonna be like, okay, what the hell? Like I've performed better, or I've done this. So that's going to be tough. I think if you are, you know, peers, like I think you just gotta somehow just be open, honest, like separate yourself even from the boss. So it's a level
Yeah.
playing field and
Yeah.
not kind of put your integrity on the line or try to take advantage of a so-called friendship with the boss. It's like let's not do that.
Hmm.
And I think that's why some people aren't friends with like their team members at work. They don't socialize with
Ah.
them outside
Yeah.
of work. They keep that separation
Yeah.
unless I go to a different department or I leave the company, period. Now we can be friends. Because
Hmm.
I don't want to muddy the waters. I don't want to get into that kind of situation.
Yeah. That's true.
What's on the
uh,
mind.
no, I mean, like I think back at it, and yeah, that's a tough one. Like being single, like a lot of times I'm like, man, I don't want to mess with anybody from work, even though you may get advances, and you're like, no way I'm gonna miss anybody with work. Now, maybe outside of work after I leave, I'm like, all right, cool. Maybe that's fair game. But like, yeah, I take that approach to relationships, like, at work, like, mm-mm. So that's why, like, in my mind, I'm laughing because, like, I've had advances at work, and I'm like, no, I was like, I'm not messing around with relationships and at work. Sorry, my mind just ventured off
but
on
it's
that. I
but
didn't mean
it's
to
a
say
good point because you will have there's a lot of relationships that we even see today that are established at work,
yeah, that's
and
tough.
it's good thing they're in separate departments and things like
Yeah.
that. I mean, I once had a guy, he was a chief performance officer at the time, said, it's best for spouses to not work at the same company. That's in his mind because like what happens if there's like layoffs or something, both in the same place.
Oh,
So it's
yeah,
like keep the separation, but at the same time, if you got a great company and there's opportunities, you're like, well,
sure.
why not? Why don't I put you on? Like, you're not going to report to me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, why not? And I remember a long time ago, this is when I first joined the military, and to your point, seeing people establish like, girlfriend, boyfriend type things, but then there's also like, well, you're like a sergeant, staff sergeant, and they're lower enlisted, lower than you, and then you're like, you need to go do this, and now you're given an order,
And it's like, okay, they got to do it at work. They'll do it at work. As soon as you get home, the hats are going to switch.
Oh
It's
man.
like now you got to catch that heat. But, at the end of the day, it's like, look, we got a job to do. And it is what it is. And I think it takes a lot of, maturity for people to understand, like, you know your role. Bottom line, know your role.
Yeah, but I think still people it could like really mess a relationship. And the reason I say that is
Oh, for
because
sure.
I was at West Point, and I was promoted. I don't know what it is, what position I was promoted to, but right, it's if essentially I was over my peers, right,
Mhm.
and I actually wrote up my roommate.
Oh, I think you mentioned that before.
I wrote him up, man, and he was pissed. Like, and I was like, bro, like, it's legit. It's a legit write up. But he thought we were boys, and I'm gonna take care of him. And I'm like, I can't do that. Like people come in our room, and they see like your shit all fucked up. And
Yeah,
I'm gonna get some heat for it.
yeah,
And I just wanted to kind of be fair across, and I did that, and it's really kind of messed up my relationship with my roommate and friend at that time. So, yeah, it's
yeah,
tough. I get it.
yeah. And then that kind of leads into our next two.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how do you establish authority without being heavy-handed? And I think this is where you mentioned it before. Like, get everybody in a room. Like, roles have changed. This is my position. I'm gonna try to my best to do right by y'all. I'm gonna try to give you
Mm-hmm.
outstanding leadership. At the same time, I have a job to do, just like you. Everything is by the book. We're gonna keep doing things. Yes, I'll have to provide guidance or give direction, or I'm reviewing this. But as long as we all do our part, then we'll be good to go. And set those expectations and boundaries up front. And people
Mm-hmm.
like no, and understand it's to a point I made. There's work, and then there's what we do outside of work. So maybe at
Mm-hmm.
work, everything is P's and Q's. Outside
Yeah.
of work, yeah, I'll be at the barbecue. I'll see you tomorrow. Something like that.
Yeah, and I think also, I think you have authority already. When you get promoted, you got to keep that in mind. Like that position gives you authority. It's position authority. So don't feel like, I think some people get in that position and they try maybe to go very extreme overcorrection. But no, just do, you got promoted for a reason. You have this authority. You don't need to flex it on anybody. Yes, sure, get people, in the room, some, hey, this is what's going on. Boom, I'll leave it at that. Don't 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 overdo it either. You know, I think you set the ground rules and then let it be. Move on. Don't harp on it because people are like, all right, bro, we get it. So there might be some backlash if you just try to overcorrect and overplease.
Yeah. And I think some people make the mistake, when they, as you were speaking, it reminded me of people that want to say, well, I'm the boss.
Yeah.
Now that they are, well, you're already, everyone knows that. But then when you start to
Yes.
throw that around and say, well, I'm the boss,
Exactly.
and constantly remind people when you're already, it's not needed.
No.
So if any of our listeners are out there doing that, stop it.
Yeah.
It's a bad look to say, to do that, to say that. It's like, look, everyone knows. You don't need to remind the world that you're the boss.
Yeah. No, yeah, you stated it perfectly. That's what I was trying to say, but yeah, you said it. Yeah.
How do you deal with favoritism accusations? To me, I
Yeah.
just stay away from it to begin with. But I think this is where goes back to, when you do separate work, business and pleasure, work and things that happens outside of work. When people hear that, so it's like, oh, Larry was at, you know, John's party, but
Mm.
John's an employee of mine, you know, and some people were invited, some weren't. So now it may give the person, oh, I have favoritism towards John because I was at his party. And I think this goes back to uh, the point of, like, maybe you just have to separate it and be like, look, I'm not going to hang out with anybody. It's like,
Yeah.
hey, I just don't want to, send the wrong message. People think
Mm-hmm.
this and that. I think, let me just fall back. You know, now if you invited all of us, that's different. You know, and sometimes even with that, I've heard and seen in plenty of times where the bosses will show up early, but then they cut out. It's just like, y'all gonna have more fun. Let me just fall out. I don't want to.
Oh,
I'm out.
yeah, that's
And
true.
they just leave early. And so they're like,
Yep.
hey, first round's on me. Y'all have a great time. I'm out.
Yep. I'm all about that.
Yeah.
um, but you have to take it seriously, like these accusations. One, I think you take it seriously. Two, you have to address it somehow, right? You can't just hope like it disappears. It's not going to disappear. People are still going to have this issue. So, um, I mean, I would be like an option would be to get, people that think you have favoritism, like they're accusing you of it. Like, I don't know, talk to them. I was like, hey, what's going on? I'm hearing this, and maybe just have like an open dialogue about it because you must address it. The worst thing you could do is not address it, and then it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And now this perception may become reality somehow for some people, and it's not good, right? So you have to address it, and you have to take some action. And maybe if it's bad enough, like somehow maybe try to separate this supervisor subordinate relationship somehow if you could. I'm not sure if you could in any scenario, but like if it's possible, yeah, that's the extreme I would go to, just because I'm like, because that could really hurt the morale of a team if people think.
No, when I think about favoritism as well as you were talking, I've known of managers, different levels where they clearly have favoritism, know they do, and still do it.
Mm.
And it's like you got to be able to self-reflect and say, am
Ah,
I
that's
being
true.
consistent with everyone? So
Yeah,
if you're always, for example, just going to lunch with this one person
yeah, yeah, yeah,
or
yeah,
these two people and you never invite the others, you never go,
yeah.
then you probably should cut that out. Like you probably shouldn't just always be in that conversation with just those,
Mm,
or you take them all, or you make your rounds and you do every one, like you give everyone a
mm,
shot. Like it's just, this week I'll take John to work, tomorrow. Next week I'll take Sarah. Like, and you rotate it around, you know. And now if you invite and they're like, no, I'm good. Okay. Well, you got the invite, you decline. I'm gonna just keep going with the rotation.
mm.
But I think it does take leaders, people in leadership, managerial supervisors, to really reflect and say, am I being consistent with everybody? And if you're not, then you got to change that.
That's hard though, because a lot of
It
times I
is.
like, I would like to think that people that show like blatant favoritism, I'm hoping that they're just not aware. Like that's what I hope for, because then it's really messed up of that person. Um, One, they should be aware, but they're not. And so I think the solution could be, somebody that's close to them really has to have courage and say, hey, bro, you're showing favoritism and people are talking. Hopefully you have that person in relationship with somebody else that could just tell you about it. The other thing is you have to have some sort of control measures, or like a survey. Like I don't know. A lot of times, as a leader, sometimes you want to do a survey of like how you doing on the team, how's the team feeling about the work we do, and our team culture, right? I think that's great. Just toss in an open question, open-ended question. Is there any kind of favoritism? Is there something you want to see that change here? To give people, an opportunity to be open up in a safe space. Um, but yeah, that's tough, especially for people that don't know or they're not self-aware. Yeah, that's really ugly.
And then even when someone comes to you and says something, that you take it seriously. Like you don't say,
Yeah,
no,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
not. Really take the time and say, even
Yes,
if you're not aware, just take a step back and say, is that happening?
yes.
Let me lay it out. Let me review it, what I've been doing, and see,
Mm,
does it constantly send a lean towards this other person?
mm,
And if so, it's like, think about it. What kind of message you're sending to others?
yes. And the other thing is like, if you see somebody that has a courage, like you said, don't blow them off, because that person has courage because he validated or she validated that feeling with others on the team. And that person that's talking to you just, said, hey, fuck it, I'm going to do it. I'm going to talk, because
Yeah.
now they have like people supporting that point of view and they feel that they have courage and they're going to go with something valid. So as
Yeah.
a leader, you have to be mindful. If one person comes up, that means there's really probably five more people, 10 more people behind that
Hmm.
person that feels the same way.
Yep. You're right. And so once you one thing you mentioned leads me to the next one. How do you
Mhm.
balance being approachable with being the boss? And I think you mentioned it too, is just, and I think I may have shared a little kind of around the way about it, is just, saying like, hey, I'm here, you can talk to me. But then I think on the back of that, truly, having the transparency, the trust, where they can share whatever and they see that it does stay confidential, for example,
Mm,
or that if we are in a space where people can freely express their discomforts, there's no retaliation, there's no judgment or attitude or anything. It's like, thank you for the feedback. I'm going to take a look at that. Like, you have that maturity as a leader. And once they start seeing that you're truly, standing behind your word, okay, now I'm gonna get more and more comfortable and be, more and more open and be able to talk with you.
yeah, no, and that's the best case scenario because now you're in touch with what's going on in your team. Um, and I think you're always should strive to be approachable person. Whether it's as a follower or a leader, because as a follower, you want to be approachable so that way your manager and peers could kind of give you that feedback and help you out. But if you're not approachable, nobody wants to help somebody who's a jerk. That's period. And as a leader, obviously, you want to be approachable because now you have people you're leading and you want them to be honest with you and give you feedback and help you. So yeah, I think in my opinion, you should always strive to be like a very approachable person. Um, I don't know, unless you're like walking around in New York City, you can't be all smiles in New York City, bro. You're
Not
just
New
asking
York
for people to mess with
City.
you.
But that's a good point though. Like, whether you're in a leadership position or not, being approachable. Because I know for some, early mornings, first start of the day, they're
Oh
not
yeah,
ready. And they're
that's
like, oh, I
true.
haven't had my coffee first, whatever. And to me, I'm like, once you come through the door, you're choosing to work, you're choosing to be ready as soon as you
Hmm.
walk in. It's not like, oh, I need a 2 hour grace period while I warm up. It's like the engine's been running way long enough. This junk is hot.
That's
You need to
very
go
true.
ahead and get it, because as soon as you, I mean, that's just, I guess, maybe I have a unique way. When I think, and I used to say it's in the military, if you choose to come in, you choose to work, and that everything that
Mm.
comes along with working, that's engaging with people, that's talking to customers, that's reporting to people, your
Very
peers,
true.
everything. You made the
Yeah, yeah,
choice,
yeah.
you walked through the door. Same thing in corporate America. There's no
That's true.
attitudes. I'm having a bad day. That could be extreme for some people. I remember telling this one soldier a long time ago. He was like, he kind of had an attitude. He just been out of shape or in the field, just constantly moaning, complaining, all this stuff.
Hmm.
He was like, oh, at the later on, I said, oh, I was having a bad day. I said, there's a difference between you having a bad day and me having a bad day. You have a bad day, you have all this attitude, blah, blah, blah. I have a bad day, you get written up. I have a bad day, you go on extra duty.
Oh, yeah.
So there's a big difference. So would you want me to have a bad day? He's like, well, no,
That's a good
exactly.
point.
Because I could put you on trash detail for the whole time we're out there because I'm having a bad day. Is that an excuse? It's like,
Oh
no, you can't operate like that. But some people might be like, well, I'm human, or, you have to have some kind of emotional regulation when it comes to when you come walking in that door. You have to.
wow, you just made me like think how many people have had like a shitty assignment or a shitty whatever project assigned to them just because their boss is having a bad day? That's true. Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
you can't.
that's crazy. No, think
Yeah,
about it.
and it could
That's
just be on the
bullshit.
back of just having a bad day. But now that
Yeah.
you've done it, you have to leave it. You can't come back and pull back on it, because it's done.
Yeah. Oh my God. That's really the importance as a leader. you know, to really be mindful of what you feel and how you feel on that day. Wow. Yeah, I never thought about it that way, but you're right. I guess we
because
should.
you got to show up. Got to show
Yeah. I wonder if I screwed anybody in my
up.
younger days. Now I'm thinking. I hope not. I don't know, but I'm sure some people would disagree with me.
If they finally come around to watching this, they're gonna be like, just leave it in the comments, people. Just leave it in the comments. Well, Colonel
Oh
T,
man.
Major T, Captain T.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. Right.
Hey, I would hope that I didn't do that, but hey, drop the comment. I want to know because I definitely want to talk about it for
Yeah.
sure.
Oh my God. I'm sure. Hmm.
So, what mistakes do new managers make in this transition? I think we talked about that. I think one of the big ones is like I'm the boss. Like you get a big head,
Yeah.
and now you're like, I'm just gonna strut my stuff. I'm walking around, do what I say, barking orders, all of that kind of stuff. Versus having a conversation and kind of easing into it because you're already there,
Hmm.
but it's getting the people to embrace the transition. So
Yeah.
it's like get familiar, get comfortable, all of that stuff. So especially I think in the military, yes, a little bit. I think civilian sector, I think is way more. Where you really got to be mindful of that because it could just literally be overnight. Everyone's vying for it. You have these promotion
Yeah.
windows, and then maybe you just went from talking crap about the boss to now you're promoted and now you got to do your one step closer to them and having to execute on their orders to the people below you. So it's like,
Yeah.
how can you work for somebody like that? Can't believe you took the promotion. I thought you said you would quit. And if you ever, and you're like, nah, but the money's right. Like I got to do this. I got a family to feed, or I'm trying to do this and that. It's like,
Yeah. That's a tough one. That is a very tough one. But so I think we've talked about this in many different ways over our podcast, right? I think mistakes, are just not being prepared for the promotion. Especially like it seems like, not to pick on the civilian world, but like sometimes you just get promoted without really any kind of necessarily any prep to be promoted, right? We talk about like
yeah,
leadership development type stuff, managing
mm,
people. So you
yeah,
revert back to your, this is how I did it as an individual contributor. Now you're a leader, and so you're not leading. You're just now an overpaid individual contributor, right? And so
yeah,
what tends to happen is also goes back to what we said before. Is now you're trying to be an individual contributor and a leader at the same time, and you're sucking at both. I mean, when you become a leader, that's your primary job is to lead. So yeah, I think we've covered kind of this topic before, but it's good to recap.
yeah, absolutely. Final question.
Mm.
How do you succeed when being promoted over more experienced peers?
Hmm.
And I've done that. I've been in that situation before.
Yeah, I don't think I have, but what's it
What all
like?
these years? Well, I
Yeah.
remember when I first came into my first civilian job, coming into a manufacturing facility, I had no knowledge of, don't nothing
Oh,
about
okay.
any standards or anything. Plenty
Okay.
of the workforce are way older than me.
Yeah, that's true.
So
Okay.
in learning, there would be, and I'm getting trained up. I thought it was going to be 2 weeks and then hit the floor. They gave me like a whole 45 days of training, but it's not like you experience everything. And a lot of times you don't experience the catastrophes, the things that go wrong, something that takes like, even though you go through emergency actions and what happens to the machine and if you're in a controlled environment, blah, 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 but it doesn't happen. Or you have bad product or there's a defect or something. What do you do? And for me, without having any experience, I have to look to the people on the floor. And I remember
Mm.
this one guy telling me, Larry, what we need to do is stop this machine, shut it down, pull
Mm.
all the product back, and basically rework it. And without me knowing, he's like, look, I'm not going to steer you wrong. This is what you got to do. And I'm like, okay. So I did what he said. And come the morning, it was a good call. So I had to keep relying on those experienced people until I built up the knowledge to say, okay, because now I know more about it, we're not going to do that because maybe we have to meet a production schedule. We
Mhm.
fix the problem. We're gonna keep going, sit that over the side and just whatever. But a lot of times relying on the people that they were experts, subject matter experts. I had to look to them for guidance.
That's rough, man. You know, like yeah, but like what do you when you look at these people that like really are guiding you and steering you, like those are really amazing people because like they don't have to necessarily, right? Especially because they may have a chip on their shoulders, like, oh, this guy zero experience is here, my boss, I have all the experience. You know, why did they hire somebody from outside, or why didn't they hire me from? You know, why didn't they hire somebody from the inside? Um, that's tough. Those are very special people because they're really kind of doing it out of the goodness of their heart, and they're not really like mad about it, even though some people in their position can be. Um, so what do you do with those people? You know, like my experience, I've seen those type of people always have some sort of like, not always, but a lot of times have some sort of fault as well. So they might be
Mm.
like super experienced, but like not a people person. Like they
Yeah.
get mad all the time and they snap and they just don't get along well with peers. And I feel so bad for those people, you know, because it's like they're on it, but it's just like that one thing is really messing with them.
And some people recognize that too. They
Mm,
recognize that they don't, because I remember this one gentleman, very knowledgeable, but he said, but being a supervisor, that additional responsibility, some people just don't want it. I had plenty of
true,
people that were
true.
highly knowledgeable, but they're like, I don't want that headache. I want to do what I have to do and go
Yeah,
home. I don't want to have to look at paperwork and worry about, doing performance
yeah,
reviews and writing people up. I don't want to have to deal with any of that. Even though, it might cap my money, I'm good. My life, my place in my life, I'm good. I don't need it. My peace, yeah, I would say is more important. So they're like, I just don't want it. I have another example, man. When I went over to, I worked in Saudi Arabia, and I was working for a company, and the branch manager was probably 70, been over in Saudi Arabia for years working.
mm,
I was probably late 20s when I went over there, and then I went from being working in a section to basically being in charge of my section just through my presence and what I did. And so I ended up
mm,
being second. So next thing you know, I got there. And then following that, it was like, I guess maybe the branch manager needed an assistant. And he said, well, however it worked out, he's like, well, you're it. So he's 70 and I'm 20 something and I'm his assistant branch manager. So huge gap. So, but I was doing the job. I was just sergeant in the military, staff sergeant. I'm like, okay, leading is not a problem for me. But then one time, this one gentleman, retired first sergeant, who was also working
mm.
there,
Okay.
who was in the group too, so he had his own section like me. He left like the gate at the end of the day unsecure.
Mm.
So he left the property gate. So then the branch manager said, hey, I've done told him a bunch of times. He keeps forgetting. I need you to write him up. You got a problem with that?
Ooh.
And he came off real hard. You got a problem with that? As if because I'm young, not going to do it. No problem at all. I'll do it. He's like, all right, all right. I want to see it after you're done, as if I'm not going to do it. So I wrote it up, just like I did write ups in military. So straight by the book. So it's like according to our policy, and I quote the policy. The gate has to remain secure. Block. You have violated policy. This is your written warning, something like that. But when I gave it to him, he signed it. He was like, man, you didn't have to come off so harsh. I was like, harsh. I'm like, I'm just stating the facts. Like, I'm just getting down to brass tacks and that's it. Like, this is what happened. This is what you did on this day. Any future current, and I always put any future occurrences, which you always do, can uh, can lead up to additional disciplinary action up and including termination. And I always put that in there. He was like, that right there was harsh. I'm like, but that's what the policy says. I'm just sticking by the book because I was one of those types. I'm gonna go
Like
by the
first
book.
shot, you know better. That's
I
what
know.
this is.
And he was like, "Damn, sorry." I'm like, "Hey, I'm just by the book, but he was a lot older than me, so it's like people also have to be able to take it
Yeah,
because
yeah, that's
you'll
true.
have that. I give you another example. My wife struggles with that a lot because she looks young. She's younger than I am by a few years, and she goes into places where a lot of people are way older than her, been in the
Mm,
space longer. But guess what?
mm,
She's in charge.
yeah,
That's it. And so, and she's learned quite a bit. So when they try to say this and that, it's like, well, she's going to know. Yes, she hasn't been doing it as long, but she also knows the facts. She knows the policies. So if you're going to say this and that, it's going to be like, you're wrong. No, that's not happening. And, and I told her, like, she's tried to be easing in and build relationships. Sometimes it works out, but then sometimes it doesn't. And I said, as we go into a new year, for those that haven't, it hasn't, well, now you just got to
drop
be
the
a little bit
hammer.
firmer. That's it.
Yeah,
Drop the hammer. As
yeah,
we say, as some people might say, boots to asses, because that's all. That's what you got to do. It's like you done reached that point where it's like, okay, I've
yeah.
tried and had the kid gloves on this whole time. Now they're coming off, and I'm just going to be more direct and more firm. And that's what you got to do. So that way they understand, like, damn.
Yeah, no, you're right. That's tough though.
And, and one other thing,
Sure.
even when, like, as long as people understand more experience doesn't always mean more years. Because sometimes think just because I've been doing
More
it a long
experience. Okay,
time,
yeah.
because they'll be like, I've been doing this for 30 years. And whenever I heard that coming up, and like maybe I do have to
Mm,
learn, but if I'm in the same space or I'm new, maybe new to a company, but not to the space, and somebody say, well, I've been just doing this 20, 30 years, that just means you've been doing it a long time. That doesn't tell me
mm.
you've been effective at it. Doesn't mean
True.
you did a good
Exactly.
job.
Exactly.
So I
Yeah.
definitely have to see that experience come through, where then I
Yeah.
think like, okay, I can get it. You do have the wisdom, you do have the experience. I'm,
Mm.
I just want to see it.
True, because you could have a ton of experience doing it the wrong way. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's true. But a lot of people do that. Yeah. Okay. Fair.
yeah. So,
I have
so
to
how
think
did
about
do we
this a
answer?
little bit
Do
more.
we answer the question though? How do you succeed when promoted over experienced peers? I think one thing I said, sometimes you gotta want to listen, hear what they have to say,
Ah, true. Yeah.
and maybe execute on something they've shared, and okay, let's try it. If you have the liberty to do that, let's try it your way. Let's see.
Yeah. I think I would just add one thing. I would lean in on the reason you are hired or promoted over your peers, right? Because it's
Mm,
like assuming or saying they have more experience or whatever. Okay, why did T get promoted over these other people that have more experience? For whatever reason, it could be. I think you just kind of have to lead into it. Like sometimes, I mean, what I've noticed in the civilian world is that you may have a lot of experience, but not the right experience. In that, like, you have
mm,
no leadership experience, right? You could do
facts.
the process like an expert, but never led people or never kind of showed the
Preach,
interest to do
preach.
that. And
Yep.
so once now you have that you get promoted because you displayed a very unique set of skills and experiences, then you have to really lean into it. And so others could see it like, oh, now I see why. When others see like the great leadership you bring, leadership is just an example, but you bring to the table, they're like, oh, okay, cool. Like I can see it now. And then like, hopefully you're mature enough to say, okay, I mean, he or she is doing a good job, so that's good for him.
And when you say lean into it, it reminds me like in those transitioning from peer to manager. And let's
Mm-hmm.
say you weren't privy to any kind of like leadership courses, leadership training,
Mm,
but and the whatever got you there, you're there. And we've mentioned this before. Take some classes, take a course.
yes,
You
yes.
know, even I would even be I think I would even say to my team, like, hey, I know I'm new here. You know, one thing I'm doing actually is learning, you know, getting some little outside, getting some tidbits to, you know, I don't want to be limited to just what I've learned here. I'm gonna take an outside perspective. However you get into that, to say that, you know, I am going to look to be better and be the best that I can be. So I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
do this and that, you know, and I don't think sharing a little bit of that would be bad because it's like you're owning it. I'm like,
No.
I'm going to try my best to be the best leader that I can be for you. Um, More than open to any feedback because as this is new for me, this is also new for you. As you said before, having that meeting up front, it's new for everybody. Hopefully, we can achieve and succeed together.
Yeah, people appreciate that. It shows humbleness. It shows approachable. You're an approachable person. Yeah, totally on board with that. Yeah, I think you're right. And I tend to do that. I try to do that at least. Like I have like every week I'm sitting with somebody on my team, learning from them. Even though
Mm.
like my team members are very young compared to me, um, but I have so much to learn. Like honestly, like no, seriously, every Friday I'm sitting in like half an hour with somebody to kind of just really get more professional development. And I think people are surprised because they see me as a, maybe I don't know, maybe this is me my age talking, but maybe they see this older guy who's willing to like learn something new, which is a bit of a
Older
shock
guy.
to them. Yeah, I
For
don't
you
know.
to say that is crazy, T. Older guy.
I
Gosh.
know.
Are we the older guys now?
I think so, bro.
Oh
I
damn.
am the oldest
I can't
person
I'm
on my
not can't
team.
I can't claim that. I'm sorry, T. I can't. You're on your own. I can't claim that. And I'm older than you.
Oh yeah, well, you got good genetics, so that's good for you.
Oh, I appreciate it. Thanks.
Yeah.
Not by much. Not by much, but like a year. All
Very
right.
good, man.
All right. Well, I think that does it for us. So,
Yes, sir.
as always, thanks for tuning in to Command the Corporate. If today's episode gave you value, do us a favor as always, share with a colleague or teammate uh, who's ready to step into that leadership role. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Connect with us, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, for more leadership insights and resources. And until next time, lead with clarity, lead with purpose, and always remember mission first, people always. We'll catch you next time.
Thanks, man.